What is up, everyone? Welcome back from the MLG studios here in New York City. I'm axeltoss, joined by axslav, and we're currently providing coverage of a consolation bracket from the Winter Championship event. Of course, if you missed the first 2 days, the VOD is available right now, youtube.com/official MLGSU2. Now, specifically what's going on here, of course, is a consolation bracket from the losers of the Winter Championship event. So everyone in the round 1 of that event who lost are playing, and they get a second chance, pretty much, at some money.
That's right. The winner of this bracket is going to win $1,000. Second place, $500.
That's a lot of money.
It is. It is. It's,
what would you do with the $1,000? I
would buy a lot of prime quality steaks.
You were going to say something else.
Steaks and good beer. There we go. But yeah, so but the talent here is insane. It's a lot of money, but there's an insane amount of talent.
One does not simply win this tournament.
No.
Of course, again, to recap, Marine King Seed happened on, what's the day? Thursday? Happened on Tuesday. Wednesday was Bly versus Subway. Today, of course, we're going to cover Vi versus State. But let's look at the schedule of what's upcoming this week, or what we have remaining to paint a picture of that. Tomorrow is going to be Huck versus Baby Night. Today is Thursday, March 28th. If you live in America or Europe, if you're in Australia, is it Friday yet in Australia?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning in Australia. If you're Australian right now and you're watching, isn't it pretty? It's pretty late right there. Is it pretty early?
It would be like 8 a.m.
I'm giving them a shout out anyway. Australians are awesome. So yeah, guys. Speaking of which, get on your social medias, get on Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, and tell people this is going on. Vi versus State is going to be the matchup today. A best of 5. To determine who advances to the next round. It's going to be Protoss versus Zerg. Got 2 Americans here. 2 Americans. A little bit of history of the guys, of course. Let's start with State. Now, State, he was on Vile in the very beginning. And then Vile joined up with Quantic. And State went over from Vile to Quantic once Vile dissolved and turned into Quantic. Then Quantic went away temporarily, and State remains teamless from that point. Of course, that happened 2 months ago. State has been attending school, and he's been pretty much focusing on that. He spent about 2 or 3 months in Korea at the Startail House preparing for the Blizzard World Championships, which he qualified for. Vibe also qualified for that. They were both in Shanghai participating in that tournament. So State, a very good Protoss player, of course. Vibe, a member of Root Gaming, and he is a very handsome guy too. He's very photogenic.
He is. He is. Very, very skilled player, and he's been around for a while.
He has.
Basically, since the beta, he's very, very experienced. One of the things about Vibe is Vibe has always been that very, very solid North American Zerg. I mean, you can see there he took first in the USA WCS, second in the North American WCS, so one of the best players on the continent. But he hasn't quite had that international breakout performance yet. And again at Dallas, unfortunately, losing in that first round. But here he's got a second chance to take some heads. I mean, there's a lot of top Koreans in this tournament. If he wants to prove himself against them, first he's got to get through State. And
that's the story of this consolation bracket. Can we have one of these foreigners? Can we have one of these North Americans make a run? Of course, you see State's statistics there on your screen. Versus Zerg, that's his best matchup according to those win rates, 56%. Doesn't have too many major tournament results. You might remember him from, if anyone follows the Texas scene, he won the. There was a tournament before the Lone Star Clash called the it's like the Texas Invitational or something like that, held by the Tespa guys. Not a lot of people know about this. State actually won that tournament. I know about it because I played in the first round. I lost, and then I went on to cast it. But yeah, State does have some experience traveling and participating in tournaments, of course. Versus Vibe, I'm sure they have a lot of experience playing each other, so it should be interesting to see how this match develops.
It's going to be very interesting. Of course, State, we can see strongest matchup versus Zerg, and he really utilizes a lot of timing attacks in all of his matchups. He's a very timing-oriented player, and I think that suits PvZ more than PvP or PvT. So definitely playing into his strong suit here. But let's get into game number 1 and see exactly how it works out. First map is going to be Daybreak, and you know, State's great with timings, but Daybreak's one of the maps that's a little bit harder to pull off those timings because it's such a long distance across, and also there's not that many spots to hide pylons.
That's a good point. It's, you know, this is one of those maps, of course, it's been around for a while relative to other maps in this map pool, considering this was a big Wings of Liberty map, and now we're starting to see a lot of variation in the new game of Heart of the Swarm. And it's interesting to see, all right, how much are these play styles changing based on the new game on the same maps. And we're seeing some pretty crafty timings from Protoss players involving Mothership Cores, you know, denying bases, utilizing Mothership Core recalls. And we're seeing a lot of Zerg players still get early gases, or actually get early gases on this map to get those early speedlings out to help deal with that type of stuff. So, anyhow, let's go ahead and introduce these players in the top right-hand location. We have the Red Zerg player from Team Root Gaming. He is Vibe, of course, one of 2 Root players who participated in the Winter Championship event, him and Minigun, aka Chad Jones. Of course, he's going to be playing next week in this tournament, his first round match against Creator. His opponent in the bottom left-hand location, he's currently teamless, focusing a lot on school, but trying to make a stand, trying to go after that $1,000 prize here in this consolation bracket. He is State, the blue Protoss in the bottom left.
You know, one thing I'm interested to see here, I think will be revealed, and actually it's pretty much already revealed by the fact no probe is leaving the Nexus, but in Heart of the Swarm, more and more Protoss are pretty much, they're not exclusively Forge expanding anymore. Some of them, they'll still get the pylon out there, but they'll get a gateway first, or basically start progressing on your tech tree a little bit sooner. And the reason for this is because in Wings of Liberty, if you skip the Forge, it's not that the first couple Zerglings would kill you, because you could get a Zealot out, he could hold a spawn to wall, and then you could kind of stabilize there. Well, the problem is that if a Zerg anticipates you doing this, they could produce a lot of Zerglings, and then it could break down your wall and then swarm in. But in Heart of the Swarm, the Mothership Core, it only takes 30 seconds to build, and if you open the gateway, you can get out pretty fast. So usually you can do those gateway openings and you'd be a little bit safer, so we're seeing some of that mix into play. But on a map like Daybreak, it's big enough you couldn't get much done with that faster tech anyway, so State's going to just progress with a standard Forge expansion here.
Yeah, this what we're seeing. You know, this is what these players are used to. This type of play style on this map. Not too surprising to see. An interesting development. You know, based on this game so far, State did build a pylon at his opponent's natural expansion. He also proceeded to the 3rd base with his probe, but then ended up canceling that pylon at the natural. So Vibe able to get that 2nd hatchery down without too much trouble, and now going to add on his 3rd hatchery here at that natural 3rd base. And you know, what's going to be interesting here is watching this probe. I mean, whenever you're talking about Protoss offensives on 2 base, at least at this point in the game, or, you know, up until the 8-9 minute mark, very important to get that forward pylon up close. You know, you have that Mothership Core generally if you're trying to do this to help protect your probe or help protect your forward pylon against pesky Zerglings, but that's going to be a huge goal if you're ever intending to do that type of 2-base aggression. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on this probe and see if he is going to act sneaky and try to hide himself into a hidden location, like behind this pillar. Remember what game was that? Were you casting?
Oh, I do remember that game. That was awesome.
I feel like it was Parting. No, I don't remember.
I mean, I don't remember exactly who it was.
You can hide a pylon. You can hide
like
a probe.
a Huck move to me, but
oh, you might be right.
Just because he loves doing that. There's, you know, almost every map has some really tricky spots. And if your opponent, a lot of what times what people do, they'll shift move around, they'll kind of look around, and they'll miss that.
Yeah.
They could have a Zergling run right by that probe, and they might miss it. Of course, if they're on attack command, the Zergling will find a probe, but typically people just right-click around a lot, and they're not going to be on that attack command. If their vision just doesn't see it, and it might only be visible for a second or two, that can be a great way to take a win here. We can see State opening with a very fast +1 upgrade, which typically means we're at least going to see some gateway pressure. Whether or not he's going to commit fully to that, I would suspect he is, given the fact he's currently boosting warp gates. So anticipate more gateways and definitely some significant pressure coming out here. Where is that Mothership Core? It's being started just now at the natural expansion, so when that finishes, you know, he's going to be looking to go on the attack. Does he have any proxy? No proxy pylons up quite yet.
There's a probe that might get spotted fairly soon. We have a Ling swinging down to the bottom side of the map, looking at his vision.
Oh, did he see it?
Oh my god, he barely missed it.
Oh.
Okay, he's going to swing back around, though.
It's a ninja probe.
It is. Now, if he passes through here, he's definitely going to see that probe.
Oh, his Overlord's going to seal the gateways regardless fairly soon as it's heading towards the main base of State. State, of course, there goes the first 2 gateways. Is he going to see the next 2? No. He turns down, but he sees more here. So he knows what he's dealing with. The timing.
7 gates, by the way, in production here. The probe is going to be spotted. He's going to start making his way toward his opponent's 3rd base. Vibe pretty much knows exactly what's going on. Has 6 Lings in production. 4 Overlords about to finish. Roachhorn about to finish as well. But here comes the +1 from State. Going to be poking forward to his opponent's natural expansion with that Stalker. Mothership Core on the way as well. And this is what we talked about. The Mothership Core can help protect that pylon. The pylon is going down right outside Vibe's 3rd base. And I'm a little bit scared for Vibe. He's putting down 2 Spine Crawlers, but State is about to have 8 Warp Gates on the field.
One thing I love what Vibe's doing is he immediately threw down 2 creep tumors there. The further back you can push that creep, the harder it is to build closer and closer pylons to your opponent. 2 queens are doing a good job keeping that Mothership core back as well, but State's now starting to warp in units, and they're going to start coming in 7 at a time. Can Vibe keep up with the production?
30 Lings were just in production there, 4 Roaches in production as well. Vibe hastily trying to get those units out on the field, going to be trying to go around the back with the Roaches and the Lings. These Lings do not have speed just yet. Spine Crawler starting to poke away at the Zealots, trying to keep State away. State is essentially as all in as you can be. He has no workers in production behind this. The Mothership Core laying down that Time Warp is now out of energy, so he's only going to be able to attack from above with that. Not much utility beyond that, but Vibe continuing to back away, desperately wants that Ling speed to finish up, which will make those Lings so much more effective.
It will, but State's army is so big. The Mothership Core goes down, but warping units 7 at a time. There's only a few Roaches left. 2 Queens are still alive. Vibe's done a great job keeping up with projections, and with 34 Zerglings as well as speed on the way, State's going to need a lot more Zealots to beat this reinforcement.
His speed is about to kick in, and as you say it, 2 Zealots warped in here from State. Is that going to be enough? No, I am not so sure. There's still 2 Spine Crawlers at this third base. Income tab shows 40 to 32 in favor of Vibe, and speed is now done. State now has to be cautious of advancing too far on the creep, because if that flank happens, the Stalkers are going to be very vulnerable to those Zerglings. Vibe continuing to extend his supply advantage, and State going back into pro production. He might have a backup plan, but here come the Lings, going to try to get this surround on the Stalkers. Great surround there from Vibe. Roaches getting a lot of damage done as well, keeping the Queen alive for now, and I feel like Vibe should be able to hold this off.
Vibe's showing excellent micro there, keeping his speedings alive as long as possible, not letting them engage those Zealots, because of course with a +1 weapons attack, the Zealots tear up those Zerglings.
Wow.
The longer he buys time, the more and more Roaches are out, and now with that great swarm of Roaches, State's going to be pushed back. And Vibe has got to be feeling very, very good at that defense. I don't even think he lost a single drone, if maybe only 1 or 2 there.
We have 80 units lost. Workers killed is 1 for Vibe and none for State. So yeah, no drones killed there from Vibe.
Look at that resources lost tab back again. I mean, we see Vibe's lost more units, but most of them were speedlings, and overall trading very, very efficiently against State's army. And now, of course, he's going to progress to lair attack. He's going to re-drone up. I mean, not that. I mean, he cut a lot of drones, so it's not like his economy was massive during that, but now he has the time and the space. He doesn't need to build units. He can just spend all his money into droning up, and he'll be on 3 bases versus State's 2.
This is a lot of units on the field here from Vibe. State only has 2 sentries and 2 zealots to try to fend off 13 Roaches and 24 Speedlings. Of course, there is a Mothership Core above, but the Forge going to get targeted down. Sentry getting sniped away very quickly. State is in a lot of trouble here. Vibe essentially doubling his opponent's supply. It was 95 to 50 at one point, but State warping in a few units to try to equalize that a little bit. But Vibe is pressing Forge, starting to take down that Forge, and State is in a ton of trouble.
Force fields keeping Vibe back for a little bit amount of time. The Mothership Core dealing a lot of damage on those Roaches. Vibe decides to pull back, doesn't want to risk losing his army. Of course, if that advanced army of his falls, then he won't be able to drone freely and tech freely. He'll have to spend some money rebuilding that army now. He's going to back away and progress to Mulus, a choice I really like. You know, I mean, he is ahead, but with good control, they can still always come back. Remember, during that entire push, Vibe was only on about 40 drones, so he didn't have a huge economy. Now, you know, he's taking his time to mass-produce drones with the full 3-base saturation, taking the 4th base as well. And he knows that he's killed the Forge, and he knows that State has very few Stalkers out right now, and State's going to have to be spending his money on basically taking a 3rd base. So there's no way State can really progress up to Link and have a decent Stalker count, or if he does, at least he won't have the upgrades to go with them. So mutas are a great choice here.
Yeah, and the question is, can you feel out this lack of aggression that's happening right now? Obviously, you know, both players are a little bit passive right now, and as a Protoss player, you can kind of, can you tell that your opponent is saving up money? Because that's what Vibe is doing. He's not building a lot of attacking units. He has 1,000 gas in the bank. All State is seeing right now is those Speedlings. So I would like to see him either get an Observer out, maybe get a Hallucinated Phoenix, scout across the field, or maybe his game sense is good enough that he knows those mutas are on the way, because he's going to have to start preparing for them. I mean, Daybreak, the 3 bases, they're a pretty large distance away from each other. You gotta be sure your units are appropriately located, or the mutas are going to be a giant headache.
They definitely are. State does have that Twilight Council finishing up. He notices the fact that Vibe still only has a few Roaches. Observer is crossing the map, but it's going to the bottom right. It's not going to see anything there. Vibe trying to just basically keep State on the back foot until the Mulas swing in there. If he can keep State's army occupied to third base, the main's going to be so vulnerable. Blink has just started, and remember, that takes 170 game seconds to complete, but he doesn't have that time because the Mutas are already moments from hitting the main base.
There's no defenses in the main base of State here, and here come the Mutas. An attack going to happen to the third base as well. Multi-pronged aggression coming forward here from Vibe, sending all of his Mutas into his opponent's main base. State hastily trying to react to this. Again, Blink is only 10% of the way done. The Stalker's going to be retreating back, and we might have Vibe try to poke into the third as well. He has those Lings poised to jump in, but going to wait until State overextends at least just a little bit. And now Vibe is going to start heading towards that third base, also swinging back the Mutas as well. So might just try to engage everything into that third. The force field's going down here from State, trying to keep his units alive, but here come the Mutas from above, going to start targeting down the Sentries and the Immortals. And now State going to try to return back those Stalkers, but look at that, State losing so many units.
He is. All the important sentries being sniped, and without those sentries, as more speedings rally up, the Stalker's going to be vulnerable. The Nexus, even with Photon Overcharge, goes down. Vibe losing a few speedings, but he can replace those so easily on 4 bases.
2,000 minerals. He's got 2-2 on the way. He's 82 harvesters, 4 bases. You said the
Stalkers. Where are they going? Where are they going?
They're going the wrong way. And there's the GG. Blink wasn't even done, so he couldn't blink out of their State. Going for that 8-gate aggression, and when you do something like that, we got to a game state where, excuse the pun, a game state, where he only had 2 Zealots and 2 Sentries back home. He just essentially failed the 8-8 all-in, but you know, he started to make those probes, started to add on those gases as that was failing. But it's a situation where you're so scared of what's coming because your opponent can easily just make nothing but Lings and Roaches and potentially kill you. And the big challenge there is holding that off while being able to anticipate what he's doing. Because kind of the only way you can come back there, I feel, is if your opponent invests just so much on the Lings and Roaches, doesn't make any drones behind that aggression, and then your economies kind of even out, and you hold off the Ling Roach stuff, then you're going to be happy, you're going to go take a third, and you're going to be even as far as tech is concerned. But what happened there was Vibe, while attacking with Lings and Roaches, he was already on the next step. He was already going up to layer, get a Spire on the way, accumulating that gas, and then once those Mutas are on the field, on Daybreak, when you have an Immortal out, you don't have Blink done yet, it's going to be very hard as a Protoss player to hold that up.
It was. I think the key thing there was Vibe's defense of that attack, and what I found really nice is the perfect Overlord Scout timing. I mean, a Zerg is normally not going to stop. I think it was at 42 drones he stopped at there because you used to want more drones. In a normal game, it'll be too far behind if you produce units that early. But his Overlord came in at the perfect time, so he could just barely get the Roach Horn. The Roach Horn wasn't built super early, but was built at the perfect time to get Roaches out just when the warp-in started happening. And that basically made the defense look very convincing from Vibe.
Yeah, once you defend against an 8-gate like that, you have to make a pretty big mistake to lose the game, because again, that 8-gate represents a lot of investment, and if a Protoss doesn't do well with it, then you know it would be a broken game if the Zerg player couldn't do anything to come back. So again, great defense there from Vibe, able to hold off that 8-gate, turn that into a victory in game 1. This is the best of 5 though, so State still has some room to work with. Guys, stay tuned. You're watching Winter Exhibition, a round 1 match of the consolation bracket from the Winter Championships. Vibe versus State, game 2 coming up.